We have the HBO Original Movie Reality starring Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney, Josh Hamilton. And this is the story of the arrest of a reality winner, which I'm not making it up. That is her real name. That's the person's real name, who is a former Air Force veteran who was working as a translator in Augusta, Georgia, when she smuggled documents that were vital to exposing the Russian hack and a lot of their attempts at interfering in the 2016 election. And because of that, the way that she went about it, she ended up being charged with under the Espionage Act of leaking classified information. And she served 5 years of a plea deal, and she is out now under halfway in a work release program, I believe. And something interesting about this is that all of the dialogue in this movie is taken from the FBI's recordings of the arrest. This movie does a great job of bringing you into that situation with this very claustrophobic setting of these two FBI agents and them making conversation, making this feel very procedural, but kind of just how we've been trained to view the police and the FBI, especially with recent information about them and how they've carried about their business. Everything they do kind of takes a more sinister undertone. It's like they're trying to get her to slip up and incriminate herself. And some facts about the case is like they didn't even read her Miranda rights when they brought her in, which, is a big no-no.
Yeah.
And, is a good case to get charges dropped. But this entire thing was a whole debacle as far as the intelligence community goes. It was like, Hunter, were you able to see this? Dusk, have you watched it?
I have.
All right.
What
were some of your thoughts on
it? One thing I will say is for a bottleneck movie like this, I think this is a classic bottleneck movie. Mm-hmm. It is also based on the play that was made about it as well. I think is this room? It's like is this room or something based on one of the lines in the transcript? Is this room all right? Where they basically spend that bottleneck in a stage play format. Because that's basically how it happened in real life. They were in that part of her house, which was mostly vacant. And they had that conversation while the recorder's on. You're hearing all this dialogue. And as someone who's, I actually have some experience with governmental and other working with people in government and knowing people who work in government and other forms of law enforcement. This is probably one of the better showing of the intangible awkwardness from both ends, where you want to be friendly as the person trying to get information, but there's an immediate cloud that just never leaves because they're watching you and they can't, and everything's kind of friendly and everyone's trying to be cordial and respectful. We can't go too far. We can't press against your rights as a person. But, and they keep repeating this a lot of times in this movie. We do have a warrant. We do have a warrant. Do you want to see this warrant? Do you want to see us? We're happy to show you the warrant. And she's like, no, I understand. I'm just trying to cooperate. And they repeatedly keep telling her, if you need to see this warrant, we'll let you see it any time. Eventually she does. Is this kind of see it? He's like, here, absolutely. Here you go. And she even looks through it and double checks with it. To quote with you, they actually don't have to say their Miranda rights.
Oh, really?
No, that's law enforcement, and it's actually the moment you are arrested for something. That's a misnomer. They do not have to read it, their Miranda rights, because, well, they have to do it under very specific circumstance, but they do not actually have to fill out the complete Miranda rights. Anything you say against you in the court of law, usually they skip to that point, but everything is a courtesy. If you hear someone saying the Miranda rights, they're being courteous with you. If they don't, they presume you know what's going on, and you either comply or you're being quiet. But most of them read it just to cover themselves, but they actually legally don't have to. They followed mostly everything by the book in this situation. Okay. They approached on the outside. They said, hey, we have a warrant for your car and it's like is it in your person? They asked if she had any weaponry, firearms. They just everything is very procedure, and you can just feel going back and forth. They even show the actual transcript of the actual lines and some of the early audio. And as a bottleneck movie, because you have really only 3 main characters in this, because it's such a these are so hard movies and plays to do because they rely so heavily on the actors. The entire situation is built on it, and I think everyone did a bang out job.
Yeah, and besides Sydney Sweeney, who we've mentioned before, we have Josh Hamilton, who plays Agent Garrick, who is one of the arresting special agents, as well as Marchant Davis, who they are both. All 3 of them are absolutely phenomenal, and it's nice to see Sydney Sweeney actually get to stretch her acting chops when Sam Levinson isn't just writing her take her top off.
Yeah, she does have a nice top though.
Undeniable. But still, it's nice. It's nice that when there is some actual talent there as well. Sure. And because this is such a hard play to do, because it is relying entirely on you in often very, very uncomfortable claustrophobic close up, because it most of the film is shot in reverse shot between her and the FBI agents. And it's like that's classic filmmaking tools of showing opposing viewpoints and showing the tension in this essentially interrogation between all 3 characters. And it's really just fantastic character work as actors.
Yeah, I think what I most appreciated was not only how much they focused on the dialogue of the actual transcripts, but they were able to do something I think which is really hard, which is put a picture to the transcript that you're seeing on paper, trying to put it in the situation and where it becomes, oh, well, this is just what's happening in real time. And that looks way easier than it has any right to be. And I think that's where its strongest suit is, making it feel as if you're actually just seeing how it actually went down, not only from the casting, because she really does look like the reality winner in real life. And I think what also, this movie I think I appreciated a bit is this movie didn't try to damn the FBI for doing their job.
No,
they didn't damn any, and they didn't try to damn her either. They just took it as the situation was.
Yeah, because like it or not, whether or not you agree with Reality Winner's actions, she did violate security protocols and was prosecuted justly so. However, you can't really look at the outcome of it, because she did expose some really fucked up shit that Russia did in the 2016 election.
Yeah, there is a line much later in the movie that I really appreciate that she said from the transcripts, which is, why do I have this job if I'm just going to be helpless? And I think that really summarizes the concept of this, where it's this, and from the transcripts, you do get the feeling, or at least from the way it's acted and shown, you do get the feeling that the FBI got those 2 while they're trying to pry and get her to slip up and get this information. They do seem to have a genuine, like, oh, we're not here to try and hurt you. We're not here to do this.
Yeah, the movie does a good job of trying to not vilify nor glorify either side of them.
Yeah.
It's just showing the situation as is. And I think that's a really difficult feat to pull off, especially from Tina Satter, who is a director on this. And this is her directorial debut. And she also wrote the play that this is based on.
Yeah. I think that extra intimacy and the knowledge of her, not only stage play, in addition to that stage play, Reality Winner, although she was under house arrest at that time, they did talk to her a lot while making the stage play, and she did a lot of voice calls with them and they asked her directly, what did you do then? How did you do this? And she was very happy to just share her experience and what was going on. In addition, Reality Winner, she is so far, she has received the longest amount of jail time anyone has done for that crime of this nature. 5 years. Usually it's only like a year or 2 for this type. That was very extraneous for the amount.
That was very extraneous, and you can't ignore that this was an FBI and a prosecution that was done under President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Who may or may not be indicted for the same crime.
Yeah,
correct.
Which, the irony, the irony in that shit is not lost on me. What's crazy too is that this is 10-year. This year is like the 10-year anniversary of
Snowden.
Snowden. Yeah,
they even mentioned that in the movie too.
Which
he's a direct reference.
Yeah,
I think
that's a direct reference. Every single person who's ever worked in government or even law enforcement. I know I've probably sat through a lot of the same briefings that a reality winner in life has.
Yeah.
But like, I think I think this is where the whole kind of prisoner of the moment thing kind of takes over, which is where I think perspective is really important because I mean, we've seen. I won't go on a whole Trump rant outside of the fact that I think he sucks, but we've seen a lot of things government-wise that we just kind of raise an eyebrow and go, "What the fuck?" 2013 with that Snowden shit, that shit was insane. Yeah. Like as someone who's reads a ton on things like this, that was mind-blowing at the time. And there's a very bad Benedict Cumberbatch movie about it. But
wasn't it called like Project Sentinel?
The Fifth Estate is the Benedict Cumberbatch.
Fifth Estate of it, but the actual project they were trying to get into was Project Sentinel.
Correct.
And they violated basically every single right you could violate to do what they were going to do. And
like literally for
yeah.
And Dusk is not being like hyperbolic. Basically every single thing you could violate that he did. Like because Snowden's in Russia?
He is in Russia under current amnesty and sanctuary. And he's repeatedly asked presidents for a pardon that will probably maybe in the next one, maybe next two. 20 years from now, a Gerald Ford will come around and go, Snowden, you can come back to America if you want. I pardon you.
Yeah.
After that's long since, just like the people who avoided the draft in the 60s, in the 80s, he came in and said, I absolve your pardon. You guys are good. You can come back. And they're like, some of them did. Most are like, no, I'm living in Canada now. I'm good.
Yeah, that's actually a very apt comparison. But just like honestly, if you were, if you're on the younger side, what have you, I would actually encourage you to go back and just John Oliver did a great interview.
Yes, he did.
Him. Oh, which if you've not looked that up, you should definitely seek that out. It's on his YouTube channel.
He talks about his experiences in Russia. He also talks about like what it was like at that point. Whether you like what he did or didn't, you have to give it to just the amount of what was going on then, what kind of a pool it was under, what presidency was under, and the point in time and the shift it was coming. And he's like, I had a choice to make. And he made his choice. And whether you like it or not, I think that did incredibly change it. On slightly lighter side note, guess what was the day of or the day after was Snowden did his thing? Guess what happened after? Was the Xbox One presentation.
Then we all Gucci.
Where they had the De Novo and the Kinect, where we'll be watching you the entire time.
That
was the day
that's
after.
Right.
You're right.
So everyone had heard about the Snowden news. They're like, "Oh, we're not watching." And then 3 months later, they discovered the CIA had colluded with Microsoft to try and use that in Project Sentinel.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, y'all, and not to get too far off the beaten path, but I mean, the government just released like 6 months ago, like there's a bunch of unidentified flying object files. We don't really know what to tell you, and just kind of release them like on a Monday. And I'm like, why is everyone else freaking the fuck out about this? Like, as an avid Twilight Zone watcher, it's like this is a big deal, and people are like, It's like, but no, like
that's ultimately what I like about this movie is so much as this a lot of craziness this happens. This feels I just appreciate how much they translate the awkwardness, even all the stuttering that the character, especially one of the FBI agent, he's very like nervous, but when he gets I love the change too when the tone changes. And they get a bite, they go in hard, and you feel that tonal change, you feel that sound change, and the camera gets very intimate and close.
Yeah, everything, and credit to Josh Hamilton, who is carrying most of the weight in those scenes. Who's this fantastic character actor you've probably seen in stuff like The Walking Dead and 13 Reasons Why. And he really gets to stretch, and just as the second his character gets a bite, it's like everything in his performance shifts. It's like his posture changes, the fucking enunciation with his dialogue, his cadence completely shifts. It's really fascinating stuff to watch.
Yeah, it's that's I think that's the most interesting part of it, is the fact that you do see these different performances in between the two agents, and you do get the feeling like they've either worked together somewhat or they don't work to each other as much, but they do have some experience. So they're awkwardly trying to approach two different ways of kind of work with her, but they're both trying to be as cordial. I think that's what made me like it most, is just how uncomfortably realistic it is when we deal with procedures. And just also the feeling with Winter herself, where you're in a government entity and you do see a lot of stuff that I don't know about you, Nick, but there's a lot of things that people aren't allowed to talk about. And you don't talk about and you don't mention, and there's this kind of like an unwritten rule of I know that you know that I know, and there are things that if I said, it would be an issue.
Yeah.
So I feel that from a personal level, I feel that helplessness almost, and until it goes into public, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's just a very, very like solid lesson, especially if you're in government work. Just keep your head down.
Yeah.
At least something that I've abided by.
Yeah, I think from this movie, I think I appreciated it well as the this is, I think, the part that really I liked is whenever a redacted moment comes in, there's that cut and using of cutting and editing.
Oh yeah.
And it even uses it in live action, which I thought was a very nice and very surprising moment.
Yeah, it's all stuff that really helps this stand out among a lot of these like based on a true story movies, a lot of these procedurals. Not just for how very frank and how matter of fact it is about it. It's also these creative choices that don't really come up until like towards the third act of the movie, when they get into more of the nitty gritty details of what it was she leaked in relation to what happened.
Yeah.
But to give my final thoughts, I think this is a very fantastic bottle film carried by the strength of these three actors. Sydney Sweeney turning in one of my favorite performances of the year so far, and getting to bounce off of great character actors like Josh Hamilton, and really in awe of Tina Sutter's direction in this, and how she is able to balance all three of these performances and a lot of these creative twists, like how she does the redacted portions of this.
Right.
I give this probably a low tune in. It did kind of start to lose me a little bit in how uncomfortably awkward it was, but then it kind of sat better with me the longer the movie went on. And this is a very quick watch. It's only an hour and 23 minutes.
Yeah, that's I think but some of the best part of it is it's just over that 60-minute mark, not too much over it. Just in that 60 to 80 minute, which I think is the sweet spot that I think cinema has really been missing. I miss those 90-minute to 80 to 90-minute showings where you get in, get what you got, and then you walk out. And I know the reason they did that was because that was like the perfect length for VHS transfers. But there was also something about that symmetry of, if you just cut it down to 80, 90 minutes, you can get it in and you say what you need to say before the fatigue and you get out. And I'm with you too. The awkwardness did at first kind of I was fine with it. And then after about like 20 minutes, I was like, okay, come on, let's get to let's get to it. But once you're in that room, and it's not long until you're in that room, once you're in that room and the bottleneck really fully kicks in, you really do feel strapped in and with them, and you're like that fourth voice, that fourth camera, that fourth perspective, like a fly on the wall in the best cases, and you're just listening in this conversation. And I think that's because of that, I have to give this like a high tune in. I almost gave it low peak, but I think there's just some small things here and there that could be improved from perhaps. But if this is a debut for her, I am curious to see whatever she does in keeping this smaller kind of cast. I think she can do well with another kind of this style or aspect. I'm intrigued to see where she kind of goes in that. But yeah, I think this is definitely a high tune in. This is a good shorter watch that if you can get past the first, I want to say middling of the 12.
I think it's maybe the first 10 to 12 minutes where it does kind of drag in the initial kind of like
awkwardness,
uncomfortableness.
Yeah. And that fits because that's actually what it was in real life. But if you can get past that first 10 and it starts getting in, you start to really allow the actors to really kind of start creeping in the aspects of who they are, and you start to understand a bit more of their character. And just all the little things like I guess at one point they're trying to go through her phone that isn't locked, but they don't know how to use her phone because they're maybe not used to that type of phone. It's just like, I don't know how to do that. And she's like, oh, I'll just reach. And they're like, well, no. You can't touch anything. You can't touch whatever. And it's that I think that's the most haunting aspect is once you're kind of with that, once you're kind of in that situation, you basically are just trapped. In a very polite trap, but you're in a trap until they decide you're okay. You're staying here.
It's like the nicest jigsaw trap you could ever think of.
Basically, that's what it feels at the very end. If you've ever been in a situation like that, or you've worked in that environment, like I kind of may have. I can at least attest to I've had to step into a situation where that's been in working without going into any details. So it worked extra for me. So yeah, high tune in for me.
This feels like this would be a really great double feature with Kimmy.
I still have never seen Kimmy.
Really? Oh, dude, you should watch.
Yeah. Oh shit.
No, you almost did.
No, that's my bad. I was just prepping the outro music for the show. That's me. That's my beat, my guy.
But yeah, that's Soderbergh, and Zoe Kravitz kills that shit. I mean, not surprising because Zoe Kravitz is amazing. But yeah, this seems like this would be a really great double feature with that. I might do that tomorrow. Actually, that might be my Saturday morning.
Yeah, I need to watch that. And it's nice to see Sydney Sweeney actually get to be a character and be able to get to act and, not just be a floating pair of tits that Sam Levinson sees her as.
Yeah, and I'll compare her in a sense to someone like Salma Hayek, who, I mean, yes, gorgeous goddess, absolutely amazing. But you look at she was just in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and she's a great voice actress. Like with Banderas, let some of these actresses let them step out, let them take a chance. I mean, look, I think most of Adam Sandler's stuff, comedy wise, over the last decade has not been great, to be nice about it. But man, Hustle fucking rules, and fucking Uncut Gems is amazing. Like let some of these people, let them take a chance. You never know.
Yep, and a chance like we got with Reality.